I applied pretty early. I interviewed early September.
I think I had the latest interview because I applied in December. And then I had my interview in May.
That I also applied in like November, December timeframe, and then my interview was in January.
And I think today we'll talk about the interview, the application process, and go maybe dive deep in details to how it was for each of us.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think I had the latest interview because I applied in December, if I can remember exactly. And then I had my interview in May.
Okay.
I was even planning to travel in France, and then like I got the interview invitation, so I just rescheduled everything, and then it was quick. I had the interview invite, and then I have the interview 1 week or 2 weeks after, and then I had to move to Seattle.
Yeah,
That's nice.
very fast.
Yeah.
What about you, Jen?
So I applied pretty early. So when I moved from Bay Area, I had nothing to do here because my school had not started, and I just applied in like end of August last year. So that was like when the first batch of applications came out. I was probably the first one. Yeah. And then I interviewed in so September has long weekend like Labor Day, I guess. So I applied. I interviewed early September, and before my college started in September end, I had the Amazon internship. I think like applying early really helped me, and yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I also applied in like November, December timeframe, and then my interview was in January. And then like after the interview, it was super quick to like get the results and then just be all excited about moving to Seattle.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And how was your interview experience?
For me, it was good. I had two 45-minute interviews like with different product managers. I remember like the product that they worked on was really cool, and to like talk about like I guess like how they enjoy their day to day. And then specifically the questions, it was very much geared towards my resume, my background. And then after I told the story, they would dig deep and like ask follow-up questions as to like why I made a certain decision, what made me feel that was the right thing to do, and if I ran into any challenges, how did I like deal with that. So yeah, I felt like they really got to know me as a person, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's nice.
What about you?
So for me, I had the two 45-minute rounds too, and for me, the first round was like for my role, we need good, we could need good knowledge of SQL. So the first round was coding round for me in SQL, and the question was, I guess, pretty easy. Like I was not that familiar at that time. No, I was not familiar. No, I'm not. I'm still learning. So that was nice, and I was given a situation like a business case and they were trying to intersect in terms of like what I was replying to as to how I would handle the situation and what data points I would look at. So that was a pretty interesting question. And then I had another SQL round, I guess. I don't remember it exactly. And then they were like they both of the interviews did have the behavioral aspect to it, and they asked me questions about leadership. Like they don't directly ask you, but they ask you situational questions where you yourself kind of have to include the leadership principles. So I think during my interview process, it was short and sweet, not that hectic.
And I have pretty much the same experience. I had also two 45-minute interview. I just had like a short time to prepare, so it was intense for me. And but yeah, it was good. My first interview was I think I felt it was like, I don't know, challenging because like he really dived deep. I have like for each response, I think I had 8 follow-up questions. And it was so deep, and at the end of that interview I was I don't know. But the second one was very good. Like I really connected with the interviewer, and then we just exchanged. We have pretty much the same background, and so we really I enjoyed the second one. So it was very what should I think? And as you said, you mentioned it, like they ask question based on I think two or three leadership principles, and then you need to give actually specific examples
Yeah.
on how you did it. Actually, the best way is to respond is to use the START method.
Start.
Yeah,
Oh,
situation,
yeah.
task,
I think I
Yeah.
use that.
yeah,
Result.
situation, task, as action and result.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
The star method, I think, gives you a good storyline technique.
Mm.
Otherwise, you can be lost. Like when I start speaking, like talking about something, I can easily get lost into one thing. It keeps it like
Yeah.
short, and then it talks through everything. Like there's
Yeah.
a good,
Like beginning, middle, end to the story.
yeah,
That makes
that's true.
Yeah, I think it's the it's can be even connected to all your discussion when you came in the company. You're always like asked to give the situation and then what you did, and
Yeah,
then based on really concrete data,
yeah,
show how we can take a decision. And that's a good also exercise to begin with, and then apply when you can.
yeah. That's a good point because I haven't applied it to discussions, but I think like I do get lost when I'm talking to people for some reason, but I'm gonna apply this technique.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me a lot, even for my presentation.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, for
really.
sure. I feel like storytelling is a super important skill to
Yeah.
have, even for like PMs and BIEs.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like talking about the interview process, what was the leadership principle, or what do you think you should like? You talked about like you think you failed the first round, but you still got the internship. So, what do you think you showed during the interview process that you actually got the opportunity to intern? So,
I think one thing that I have in my background is I had diverse experiences. So that's why I think also the interviewer asked me many questions to just try to understand why I was doing all the things I was doing. So I wasn't sure because I think I wasn't confident, and because also I want to be an intern at Amazon at that time. So I was a little bit maybe tough about like with myself. But yeah, I think the maybe the thing that's really helped was I was able to give examples, like maybe more than one and
Right.
three examples.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had that feedback when you were preparing, because online people will tell you prepare an example for each leadership question
Exactly.
and
That's what I
never
did
the
too.
Yeah, I
don't
think
give the
so.
same examples during the two
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah.
So that was something challenging, because if you only have three examples on your 3 years experience,
Yeah.
you'll have a hard time, because if you have 6 follow-up questions,
Yeah.
yeah,
you will
have
be
to go
stuck.
in deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
But
good strategy.
yeah, so I think the examples I gave was very helpful. So that's how I think things
that
work.
was
for
your
me.
X factor.
Yeah.
This experience. How about you?
For me, I think it was when I showed passion for the organization. Like I mentioned everything about it, like the day one culture, and then being able to like build things from the ground up and having that startup mentality and entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
and then connecting it back to like my background and what I want to do as a PM. So I think tying it all together for them at the end, like really helped them see me in the role and performing. So I think passion is what got me.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, so this was my first tech experience as such. Like I'm transitioning from business to tech, so I was already feeling very intimidated.
Yeah.
But I like even though I'm like doing my degree in data science, so I thought like BI is a good role for me to break into DS. And they with the SQL questions, I think I did mess up. I was asking for hints and stuff, but I think I showed the leadership principle of being like willing, like curious and
Yeah.
willing to
Inquisitive,
learn.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think that really helped me because I was talking about that, and then I did talk about my diverse experience as well. I talked about some of my personal projects that I've been doing. So that kind of like that made them curious into okay, what is this person doing? So they're not just here for the role, but they kind of tie up to the organization as a person too. So
Yeah.
that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you guys brought a lot of good points. Like the interview is kind of like a conversation. You work together with the interviewer to like find the solution, and they can help you along the way. And then for you, it was like you never know what's gonna happen. Like you don't know what the interviewer is thinking. Maybe they're challenging you to see how far you can
Yeah.
go. So like,
That's
yeah,
true,
it could be
yeah.
a good thing.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if you had that too. Like one thing that's really that I really like is at the beginning of the interview they tell you they say like we are just here to understand your background. We are not
Yeah.
don't feel like very challenged. If I ask you many follow-up questions, I just want to understand it clearly.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful, I think. Like,
Yeah. I think they try to dig deep because they want to know, like, if you're able to cope up with the questions they're asking. They're not trying to grill you, but they're just trying to know you better, I guess.
Yeah, and that you actually did the work that you said you did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's true.
They're not making up any story.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't make up stories, guys.
Yeah. That's
And,
cool.
and also, I think, like, for folks who are like applying for internships, obviously you don't have a lot of like professional experience. You can always give out personal examples, and they don't have to be related to any academic project. Because when I started, when I was interviewing, I did not have any academic project in data science because obviously my like degree had not started, and I had like past business experience.
Yeah.
So you can always give out personal examples and how your field of expertise or what you're studying would tie up to that, and how it ties up to what you want to do in future.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can demonstrate interest in other ways instead of being like super obvious, like trying to bring tech when you don't have that experience. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can talk about what makes you unique and then how that ties into tech, what you can bring, and then what you want to learn.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, like, let's give our viewers some tips and tricks. What do you think, Winnie, are like your favorite tips for the folks out there?
I think for me, what was really helpful was networking with people who are in the role I wanted to be in. So, like, I reached out to a lot of product managers, both technical and non-technical, and I started with my network at Chicago booths, like the alumni, second year upperclassmen, because they're really close to like having gone through the process themselves. So they're very open about like helping me, and it's fresh in their minds. So I think that helped me a lot. I also like based on like research, I read the website, the 10K, so like just get an overview of what Amazon's working on and forward-looking vision. So then you can tie that into like what you're excited about.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Idris?
I think what I did is like I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn searching for like people who already did the interview and then now working at Amazon. So I did I think 5 or 6 mock interviews. So yeah, I will recommend just like reaching out people. So even before I get to Amazon, I had a very good and well like network with like many senior product manager, and this really helped me even during the internship because I have like a sort of mentors to just go and talk to. I had many reviews of my document with these people even at Amazon. So yeah, I really recommend using LinkedIn and find many people to help you with interview tips and also like questions. And the second thing I think is to just search about like information about the company, the company is doing, if there is a trending.
Yeah,
Like,
press releases.
yeah, you need to be just aware of it and don't just give it. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I think, yeah, for me, like, even like the networking thing, I applied to my college applications as well. I got admission into one of the universities because of like networking, because I reached out to them. And also, like, a lot of people feel like networking is stressful. It can be because if you maybe like send a message to 10 people, you might not hear back from, let's say, 7 or 8 people. But one useful trick here is, like, what I did was I had a message prompt, like, because LinkedIn, if you're sending a message to people, like, you want to keep it short and sweet. So you can have a prompt and you just have to change the name and maybe the role of university.
Yeah.
Like, that was really helpful for me. And I guess, like, you have to know the company that you're interviewing for, because that's the worst thing if you don't know like what they're doing. Then you just like flatten out your scope completely. And another tip would be, like, don't be too hard on yourself. I have noticed, like, we think, oh, we cannot like interview for this role, it's asking for a lot of things, and I guess I'm not there. Like, believe me, I'm still like learning, and I wasn't there at all. So you just like take the faith and like
Yeah.
apply for everything. Not everything, but like I think that's
Yeah,
what's relevant to you.
relevant to you.
But you should like have that confidence and faith to
To just go
take
for
a
it.
leap. Yeah.
Take a
Yeah.
leap with it.
And one more thing I will add is, like, for example, when you are preparing the interview, try to have really one example by like for each leadership principle, and then try to also find one or between, like, in your examples, find an example covering more than one leadership principle, so that we can just
Oh yeah.
yeah, when you have different question,
Yeah.
bringing many leadership principle in one is very good. Also,
Yeah.
perspective, like
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah. And also, I think like for interns, like they're not expecting to be you're interns, so you are there to learn.
Yeah.
You provide that kind of scope of mind where you don't know things and you want to learn, so you provide a fresh perspective. So many things. So that's why you don't need to be like really too hard on like getting all the technical skills and like bits and pieces. You can just be yourself and show them you're willing to learn, and that would land you a role,
Yeah.
I guess.
And I did want to say something that ties with the doc reviews we just mentioned, and then also like on LinkedIn connecting people. The more you talk to Amazonians, you'll understand more of the doc writing culture we have here and the PR FAQs. So then you'll start like speaking the same language, and I think that's what helps people see whether you're a good fit here or not, and whether you understand what's going on. But yeah, I really agree with all the tips and advice that they've shared. I think it's very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this like discussion. I hope we helped you, and yeah.
Hope you apply.
Yeah.
Hope you get it.
Yeah.
And feel free to connect with us. I think we're all pretty open to like coffee chats and yeah, paying it forward.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.